Good afternoon, and welcome to CabWriter Comprehensive 2, Part 6. This is where we left off in Part 5. And what I hope to do today is finish the rest of the upper cabinets. We're going to start with this cabinet right next to the corner cabinet, which is a wine cabinet. And to see what we've got here, let's go look at our reference model. Here's where we're going to start with this wine cabinet. It's the most complex of what we have left. These cabinets over here are quite simple. They're standard upper cabinets, so they'll go pretty quickly. This one we have to pay attention to. There's some details here we have to pay attention to. So what we need here, I think the only thing we really need to know is notice that there are three similar boxes, or identical boxes actually, and they each have a 15 and 11/16 opening. The total box is 58 and 1/16. And notice that it starts right here. It shares the same connector with this corner cab. You can see that here. This connector is the same connector as the corner cab. And you'll see how we do that in a moment. I think the only thing we have to remember is 15 and 11/16 opening and 58 and 1/16 total length. Let's get started. We'll go back to our model. Okay, here we're going to start with our story stick. And as I said, we're going to share this connector style. So we'll start here, come out, make this a left connector. And now the total length, I'll use the distance tool, total length is 58 and 1/16. We'll come back this way, and that end is going to be a right sheet. So there we are. Now we'll do the first opening. And again, I'm going to use the distance tool, and that's 15 and 11/16. This is the opening. We don't want to encroach on that, so we have to come to this side of the marker. And we have our first connector. And now we want to use the distance tool again. 15 and 11/16. And again, we want to go to this side. One more time, we'll use the distance tool. 15 and 11/16, and we'll come over here. Now, if I remember correctly, this should be 3.5 inches, that opening. So let's measure that. Sure enough, it's 3.5. So now we have our story stick. Now, let me go look at the reference drawing. Here's the reference drawing. This cabinet, this box, is going to have two compartments. One's going to be a drawer, and the other's going to be a door. Same here and same here. This one's going to have quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you'll notice that the divided upper only allows for the definition of 6 compartments, I believe it is. Or maybe it's 7. But in any case, it's not 8. So we have to do a little trickery. One of the things we can do is we can edit this cabinet just to see. Notice as I edit this cabinet, this one right here has 6 positions, or 6 partition positions, allowing for 7 actual compartments. And these numbers I'm not going to remember. So I've taken a picture of them and I'll save them. Now these are identical, so if I say next, these are simple. There's a 5/8 offset and a 6-inch compartment here. And then the remainder of the box. I can't remember those, but like I said, I took a picture. So let's cancel this and go back to our model. Okay, so first thing we want to do is open up our user defaults and see if we have a wine cabinet set of defaults, and we do. So we're going to use those. We'll load them. And we can close them. We don't need to look at them right now. Let's go back to our story stick. And let's hit end. Now the first thing it's telling me is that I have an opening that's less than the default minimum opening. In the defaults I have a minimum opening default which is set to 6 inches. And sure enough, this is 3.5 inch opening. Well, I'm not going to put a door on it or a drawer or anything like that. This is a wine cabinet. It's going to be open, so I'm going to ignore this. Notice this is just a warning. It's not going to stop me from doing anything. So I'll say OK. And that brings this box up. And it's looking at this first box. It wants to know about this first box. Well, I have my picture, like I said. And the first box is simple, 5/8 and 6. The wine cabinet is pretty complex. I'm just going to keep these off camera where I can refer to them, and then I'll just plug them in. By the way, these numbers I arrived at through an iterative process of guessing what they would be, drawing the cabinet, figuring out how much they're wrong by redrawing the cabinet with another set of numbers, and I think I probably even iterated maybe 3 times. You're going to have to do the same thing if you're designing this from scratch, but since I've already designed it in our reference model, and this is a course on how to use CabWriter, not how to do cabinet design, I'm going to just copy these numbers. So I'll leave these off camera and just refer to them. Okay, so we'll select a divided upper. Notice that these become unlocked so I can enter the values I want. And first thing I'm going to enter is 5/8 for the offset, 6 inches for the first position, and I'll hit next. I want this next box, this one here, to be the same thing, so I'll just hit next. I also want this one to be the same, so I'll hit next. Now I'm going to change things. This is going to be 9/16. This will be 4 11/16. 8 7/8. 13 1/16. 17 1/4. 21 7/16. And lastly, 25 5/8. And we'll hit OK and see what we get. There we go. We have what we wanted. Notice that I don't have enough dividers to finish this, but that's not a problem. I can just copy these up. The thing I want here is I want to keep my divisions equal. For instance, if I measure the distance between here and here, that's 4 3/16. And so what I want is for this next one to go up 4 3/16. And let's see if that looks right. That'll give me an opening of 3 3/16. And I think that's correct because that's 3 3/16. Okay, so what I want to do, and it looks like I have to move it up twice. Let's move this one up 4 3/16. Well, I think here's what we're going to do. We're going to take these two, unlock them, do a move copy right there. And now I'm going to, I think what I'm going to do is make a part to fill in here. So let me take the rectangle tool. Let's make a part right here. Push-pull it in to that point. Make it a component. I don't care about the component name right at the moment. What I want to do now is I'm going to use the Make This a CabWriter component tool to make it an official CabWriter component that follows the CabWriter rules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to this cabinet, which is C24R, right there, C24R. And I'm going to make it part of the face frame. And I'm going to make it a mid-rail. The mid-rail just like this. So let me make the C24R component type, part of the face frame. It's a mid-rail. And I'm going to call it upper wine rail. And since there's only one in the model, I'll give the instance name the same. I do want it CabWriter protected, so if I redraw this cabinet, it will still be there. And so notice now my definition name is C24R face frame part, upper wine rail. And I can actually make this part of the I can make this part of box 4. I'll make it part of box 4. So it's C24R face frame box 4 upper wine rail. It's called an upper wine rail. And I'll just say OK. C24R, C24U. Yeah, it's a U. And if I now look at this, it's C24U upper face frame box 4 upper wine rail. And by the way, because we called it part of the face frame and a mid-rail, notice what happens if I look at the extended entity info. I've got all of the information about resizing and everything else in there. Okay, so now we've done that. Recall that I offset this by 9/16. What does that mean? That means normally this part here, the bottom of it, would be lined up with this, but I offset it 9/16. In other words, if I were to look at this face on and look at the X-ray, this is 9/16. So what I want to do now is, to make the maximum opening I can, I'm going to put a little arc here. So I have a lot of opening for the bottle, but I don't want to go to 9/16 because then I'm going to run into the bottom of the shelf. So I'll cut it back by 2/16 and go 7/16. So let's try that. So I'm going to move this up to 7/16. To be safe, I'll make another line. I'll just move that up 7/16. And by the way, while I'm at it, I'm going to do this one too, 7/16. And I'm going to come in a 1/2 inch. And I'll come in a 1/2 inch here. Now I'm going to edit this. I'm going to use the arc tool. And I'll do the same here. Going to unlock all of them. Use the arc tool. Push that through. And clean up my get rid of some of these. All right, now what that does is it gives me an opening. Let's just look at this from the front. Gives me a wine bottle opening of 3 5/16. Most wine bottles are 3 to 3 1/4 inches in diameter. I feel good about this for a couple of reasons. One is it gives me 1/16 of an inch margin, but it's actually more margin than that. Because if you start putting the wine bottle in an angle and push it in, eventually the neck gets narrower. So you actually have more margin than you think. So that'll work fine. Okay, we're getting close to 30 minutes here. I'm sure we're going to go over it. So I'm going to leave the doors and the draw fronts and draw boxes here until the cleanup tape. What I want to try and do, see if I can get the rest of these cabinets in here. I'm going to create another line here. Get the right tool, and I'll bring that line out 13 inches. And now I'm going to go back and look at my reference drawing. Okay, here I am at my reference drawing. And I've got a dimension here that tells me where this cabinet ends and where this one begins. Then it's a simple standard upper. And that's one cabinet. Then I have another cabinet over here. With 2 boxes. And then finally I have this standard upper over here. So to save time, I'm going to take this reference and move it to the side so I can refer to it, and then just go back to our model and create these. And it should be real easy. So I'll just move this over here. Now that I'm back at this model, what I'm going to do is create a line that's 59 7/8 from here using the distance tool. (59 7/8). And it's going to be a cabinet that's 30 5/16 wide. And the left end of it is going to be a sheet. (30 5/16). This is going to be a connector here. And it's a standard upper with 2 doors. Now I've got a little problem here. I didn't change my defaults back to the standard upper defaults, so let me do that now. And I can redraw that, and hopefully it'll get rid of this bottom rail. There we go. That's the cabinet we wanted. All right, now this cabinet's going to be 2 cabinets starting here. And that's going to be a left pivot connector. And the cabinet is going to be 27 9/16. And that's going to be a right sheet. And my favorite dimension for corner cabinets, 14 inches. We'll go back this way, hit end, and that's going to be a diagonal upper, 1 door. And this is going to be a standard upper, 1 door. Okay. And our last cabinet, we're going to have a hood here, so we're going to leave 33 3/8 of an inch. So with my distance tool, mark that out, come to this side, and that's going to be a left sheet. And it's going to be 9 13/16 wide. And I'll come back this way. And that's a right sheet. And it's going to be a standard upper, 1 door. All right. Notice that was designed to come to the end of this wall. All right, I now have all of my cabinets. Now there's a lot of fixing up to do, and we have some doors here and drawers here that we want to add. We'll do that in the next video in part 7. But basically we have everything we're looking for. And so, until part 7, have a good day.